Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Well, last episode, after finishing off our investigation day as Genus officially appointed counsel, having confronted an eavesdropping Inspector Gregson before returning to 221B Baker Street to say our farewells to Suzuto, the next day arrived and our trial began. With familiar faces on the jury once again, some more stand out than others, our first witnesses have been called, the Skulkin brothers, as we now hear about their legal entry. I was walking down Baker Street in the small hours and the gaff's door was ajar, see? It was like some kind of sign, begging for us to go in, it was. Once we got inside, called blimey lummy! We heard a gunshot from the back room. I went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside. We never done nothing, Governor. We never took nothing. We just left after that, nice and quiet like. Sure. You were on the scene at the time.
A terrible coincidence it would seem. At the precise moment these miscreants entered the property, and even more since the crime was afoot.
The witness's testimony is consistent with the crime scene in every detail. The door providing access to the storeroom from the main shop was indeed locked from the inside. And within, only the victim and the accused were found.
I must say, it does appear to be an overwhelmingly simple case. Still, the defense may cross-examine the witness now, of course. Counsel, if you please. Counsel?
Yes. What's the matter, Runo? Sorry, I was just stunned into silence for a minute by the blatant lies being told by that pair in the stand. I know that it's all nonsense because I saw it with my own eyes. I'll just have to expose their testimony for the pack of lies it is. I mean, they are leaving out some crucial bits that the police and the prosecution 100% know happened. There's a guy in hospital right now. We was walking down Baker Street in the small hours and the gaff's door was ajar, see? Hold it! So I thought, opportunity knocks. The front door of Winniebank's was ajar, you say? What time of night was this? Must have been about 1. Right, Ringo? Yeah, I'll say so. Right, Sulky?
How would I know? The place would have been shut at 1 in the morning, just like every other shop in town.
Well, it was pitch black inside it, what's true? Ain't that right, Ringo? I'm not so sure, Nash. I seem to remember a little light burning inside. What about you, Sulky, me old mucker?
Leave me alone.
There definitely was a small lamp burning inside. That's what alerted us to the situation in the first place. And when these gentlemen ventured into the open establishment, the accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, already had the muzzle of a gun trained on the unfortunate victim.
Objection!
That is pure conjecture. Perhaps, but it changes nothing. These brothers inadvertently wandered into the middle of a cold-blooded murder, simply because they found the door of the victim's establishment open and ventured inside. Right, that's what happened. It was like some kind of psalm, begging for us to go in, it was.
Hold it!
What are you trying to suggest, that you had to go in? Well, God moves in mysterious ways, they say. Don't they, Ringo? They do, Nash, they do. Must have been some sort of providence, I reckon. God's will often presents itself as the whim of thieves, does it? It weren't no whim, I'm dead sure of that. It weren't, Nash, it weren't. Like we said at the time. You don't just find doors open in the middle of the night like that. Ah, there's no two ways about it. It was a sign that our long-lost brother was inside. They're not very good liars, are they? Well, you can't deny it. They led us to a bloke what looks just like our bruv.
I said, cut it out.
Those chips are getting a chumping today. But once we got inside, God blimey lummy, we heard a gunshot from the back room.
Hold it!
A gunshot, you say? Just the one? Are you sure about that? Yep, just the one, Governor. I could swear to that. It was, Nash, it was. Ain't that right, bruv? The firearm used belonged to the victim himself. Yes, Mr. Winterbank always used to leave his gun lying around on the counter.
Right, I remember. When we examined it, we found the revolver was completely out of rounds.
That makes sense. Mr. Winterbank always used to say he only ever kept a single bullet loaded.
That's true. I remember him saying that as well. So we can say with considerable certainty that only a single round was discharged from the firearm used as the murder weapon. Yes, my lord, we can. And I should remind the court that the firearm in question was discovered in the hand of the accused. Wonderful. I went to see what was what, but the door was locked from the inside.
Hold it!
Inside? What was that? Do you mean the door between the main shop and the storeroom? If my learned friend is having difficulty grasping the situation, perhaps a drawing would help. Excluding the shop's entrance in the street, there is only one other door, that of the storeroom. Of course, there was only a little wall lamp burning, not much to see, bar. And the door was hidden behind a curtain and all.
That's right. When we arrived, the door was mostly obscured by the curtain.
Tell me, why exactly did you try to open that door? Eh?
Any normal petty thief would run at the sound of a gunshot, I should think.
Oh, well, your turn of rabbit, Ringo. Well, Nash, yeah. I suppose you'd have to say we ain't normal, eh? Broadly speaking, humans respond in one of two ways on hearing a gunshot or scream. The timid flee, gripped by fear, while the courageous investigate to see if they might help. These gentlemen are of the latter inclination. My learned Nipponese friend, it would seem, is of the former. Alright, somehow I just proved that I was a coward that night. Thank you, counsels. So I believe we all understand that the door was locked and could not be opened. Proceed, witnesses. We never done nothing, Governor. We never took nothing. Just left us that nice and quiet like.
Hold it!
Yeah, sure.
Bang, bang. You didn't do or take anything. Is that your story?
Well, it was Bedlam soon as, weren't it? Yeah. Well, it was Bedlam soon as, weren't it? There we go. It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out, me Lucy lockets.
So with no time to take your hands out of your pockets, you just left nice and quietly, you say?
That's right, Governor. Nothing we ain't more than violence. Peace-loving nibblers we are, not bludgers.
Understanding.
We are, Nash, we are. Never even pulled me dukes out of me Lucy lockets.
So you'd clearly like us to believe...
Come again?
As you fled from the pawnbrokers that night, did you not run into anyone else? And did you not fire a gun at that person?
This ain't alive. They fired a gun, you say? Ah! Blimey, Governor! You ain't telling us it was you in the doorway?
It was.
Why the bleeding Nora? Didn't you mention that before?
You were armed with a gun, and as you fled the scene, you fired that gun at London's greatest detective, Hairlock Sholmes. You shot the great Mr. Sholmes? I did hear that, actually. There was a rumor he'd been rushed to hospital. The great Sholmes? That's beyond the pale.
On the night in question, this pair were arrested by the police within minutes of the discovery of the crime scene. Their suspicious countenance rapidly gave them away. And when searched, a firearm was indeed found in their possession. Furthermore, the barrel shows signs of a shot having been fired from it. The prosecution invites his lordship to examine the firearm recovered from these brothers. Yes, indeed. Remnants of powder around the muzzle, as you say, counsel. The court will hold this weapon as evidence.
Skulkin Brothers' gun has been entered into the court record. A single round being fired. Oh, I can see where this is going.
Now, my learned Nipponese friend.
Yes?
Here's to your successfully presenting the evidence. Oh yes, there are the telltale signs of spent powder on this gun, and a single bullet missing from the cylinder. But the prosecution demands evidence that it was fired at the scene of the crime under scrutiny in this trial.
Objection!
Well, I don't need evidence, because I was there.
Objection!
That's not evidence, I guess. Oh, unless you could take my testimony like you could take theirs, please. However, the rest of us in this courtroom were not. If the defense fails to provide evidence in support of its rash claim, we shall have no choice but to toast your incompetence and move on. Evidence these two fired that gun before they left Windibanks that night. The court demands that all claims are affirmed with clear proof. What evidence shows that these witnesses unloaded a firearm in the pawnbroker's shop that night? I guess I'm going for something picture-wise. So I'm assuming it's this, because this is probably the picture I want, because it shows a bullet fired into that. Blood, though I'd have to explain the green, I guess. But this is, of course, separate from the murder in there. That's the trap!
Take that!
The evidence is in this portfolio. What on earth have you there, counsel? During the course of our investigations, we discovered a number of bloodstains. Not trusting the police to do the job they're trained to do. How arrogantly Nipponese of you. Well, anyway, we analyzed all the blood samples we found and recorded the results in this portfolio. And you claim to have the evidence the court is demanding therein. Yes, my lord. No more dallying then, counsel. Present the pertinent evidence at once. What do you have in your portfolio that proves these witnesses unloaded a firearm at the scene? This.
Take that!
What is that? Explain. It's a photographic print taken at Windibank's pawnbrokery on the day of the incident. From the scene of the crime, is it? Is that a bullet hole? And if my eyes do not deceive me, it appears the bullet is still lodged there. Yes, as your lordship noticed, the bullet pierced Mr. Windibank's calendar. The date shown being the 16th of April, the very day of the pawnbroker's death. The incident occurred at 1 hour after midnight. Well, this indicates that a separate shot had been fired sometime after the calendar had been set to the 16th. That's right. And while it isn't irrefutable, the defense believes this is credible evidence that the witnesses did fire a round from their gun in the pawnbrokers that night. Ah! Order! How does the prosecution stand, Lord Van Zeeks? I'm helping him. Right now. If that is the direction my learned friend wishes to take, the prosecution has no objection. What? But you'll forgive me for flinging my hallowed chalice aside in disgust at the repugnancy it exposes. Yes, on the night in question, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery illegally. And like the bold baddies they claim to be, opened fire on the new arrivals before fleeing back onto the street. Take it easy there, Governor. You're gonna land us in the soup. We had a deal. You weren't gonna get into them details. Tell him, Sulky. Set the bloke straight. I have nothing to add. So he knew, did he? Van Zeeks knew their testimony would almost certainly expose the extent of their crimes. It will seem now that I owe my learned Nipponese friend a word of gratitude. What do you mean? What I mean is that you have helpfully confirmed an important fact. To what fact do you refer, Lord Van Zeeks? As has been established at the point of their arrest, a single shot had been fired from the brother's gun. However, if that shot found its target in Mr. Sholmes, then clearly these witnesses cannot be accused of the fatal shooting of the proprietor and victim.
Ah!
In other words, these two men have no material connection to the murder of Mr. Windybank at all.
So, that's it. That's great.
That's it. We didn't have nothing to do with it. We didn't, Ash. We didn't. That's what I reckon. Your crimes include unlawful entry, intent to steal, perjury, and let us not forget attempted murder. Quite a catalogue, eh, fellas? We're in for it now, bruv. Now then, let's just take a moment to consider the aforementioned great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, who has seen the man patronize the pawnbrokers in question somewhat regularly.
Where's he going with this?
Mr. Sholmes appears to take pleasure in tinkering with eccentric machinery.
Eccentric? Says who?
Not me.
Don't give me that look.
He installed a pair of machines like this one in the victim's shop.
Oh, that's one of Hurley's red-handed recorders.
What is that, Counsel? It has the appearance of a photographic contraption. As your lordship has surmised, it is indeed a camera attached to a small timing device. Every half an hour, it automatically photographs the interior of the establishment. The idea being that if a thief were to break into the shop, he would be caught red-handed. The prosecution has obtained the photographs taken by the device on the night in question. As the court will observe, copious identical prints are produced in a quite desultory fashion. Rather prodigal, I feel. In fact, there are two such devices in the victim's shop, my lord. If I may refer the court to the plan of the premises, their respective positions are here. And here. You say these cameras produce a print every half hour? I'm afraid I fail to see how that would help if the anticipated thief conducted his activities in one of the many 30-minute intervals. One can only pray that the would-be criminal lingers, my lord. On the night in question, the witnesses currently in the stand were not caught on camera. That's a bit of fried tuck, eh, bruv? Lady Luck loves a Skulkin. Witnesses, at what time did your trespassing begin? Must have been just after 1. Right, bruv? Must have been, Nash. Must have been. Yeah, just gone 1. In which case, minutes before these brothers entered the establishment, what scene might we expect to see within the shop? Let's just examine the evidence. Good lord! It is the defendant! Miss Gina Lestrade! As the court can clearly see, the accused is pictured gun in hand facing the victim over the shop counter, no doubt coercing the proprietor to open the door to his storeroom. Right, one can only too easily imagine the events that unfolded. The court will take this photographic print as evidence, if you please, counsel. The photograph of Gina has been entered into the court record.
I don't believe it. Guinea.
In short, the accused is the only person who could possibly have killed Mr. Windybank. I say, my lord. Who's this? Oh, wonder if I might put a word in at this point. Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Took a body bullet to the knee in the Battle of Maiwan, 1880, don't you know? Decorated for it and all that, but forced to retire from service, sadly. Of course, a medal can never outshine the exploits of chaps like us on the battlefield. Yes, Mr. Foreman, and what exactly is your point? Carried on the battle after retirement, you see. The battle of daily life, if you like. And here I am now, leading this small squadron. 6 men, all good and true. And we'll all go down together, you mark my words. One for all, and all for one. Yeah, I need a drink after that. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached agreement, have they? Is that what we are to understand? Well, Mr. Foreman, is that correct? In a manner of speaking, yes. That is the Garradeb Squadron's position, sir. What? No, it's too soon to make a judgment here. Status report for the court, men. On the double.
His lordship insists on promptitude at all times, and that goes for making decisions too. I think you'll find the truth is as clear as day now. I could reach out and touch it.
I wouldn't have left it in there. I just wouldn't. But in all honesty, I can't actually remember.
Situation clear. Stop. No room for doubt. Stop. Truth now undeniable. Stop.
I am very sorry for brothers. They are unlucky. Very well. I now call upon each member of the jury to state his or her leaning in this matter. Announce your considered verdicts to the court.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Here we go again. It does indeed appear that the jury is unanimous in its leaning already.
That photograph. It must be the definitive evidence that Gregson mentioned. But Guinea didn't shoot him.
No, of course not. My lord, the defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination. Very well. The court grants permission. So, you refuse to admit defeat again. How unsurprising. We shall proceed immediately with the summation examination. Mr. Foreman, are all members of the jury ready? Up so bally lootly, sir. Always ready for action, my chaps. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. Let's find out what the findings are. The jurors' contentions this time. All the evidence clearly points the finger of guilt at this young pickpocketeen.
As a housemaid, I should like to see all the filthy eyesores promptly and rigorously eliminated. I think you'll find that if you look at that photograph in stereo, the truth will just pop out.
If I've left it in there, I should think there'll be repercussions by now.
Mind made up. Stop. Global radio transmission and verdict to follow. Stop.
In Motherland, we say never judge by clothes, judge by head. I am convinced brothers are innocent. The circumstance of the crime and the evidence do indeed implicate the defendant rather comprehensively. The storeroom, locked from the inside, in which the victim and the accused were discovered alone. And in the accused's hand, the fatal revolver, the firing of which was heard by these witnesses. Not to mention this print. Taken from a chap who's seen action on the battlefield. That young girl's on the verge of pulling the bally trigger. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh dear. Hurley's cameras were supposed to help, not hinder.
I'm afraid I think you have an uphill struggle ahead of you.
Regina didn't shoot Mr. Winterbank. Which means there's more to the situation that we've yet to see. Agreed.
You have the floor, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination. Here we go. The defense's rebuttal. I guess we'll start with Mr. Garradeb, eh? All the evidence clearly points the finger of guilt at this young pickpocketeen.
Hold it!
You're Mr. Nasame's landlord, Mr. Garradeb, aren't you? We really must stop meeting like this. Ah, you're that lawyer chap. Well, there's a turn up for the books. Yeah, it's rather a turbulent time we had back then. Some extraordinary events took place at your house, that's for sure. Luckily, Mr. Sholmes and I were able to get to the bottom of it all. I think we did rather a lot for you, didn't we? I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be suggesting that therefore you should change your leaning to not guilty or anything. Can't be denied, I suppose. The curse of the Garrett house was the talk of the town after that business. Lodgers moved out and I couldn't get a bally soul to take up the tenancies. Oh. I haven't had the heart to break the news to Joni yet. Bad enough that the old girl's clapped up. Yes, can't be denied. We did do rather a lot. But not for us, that's for dash certain. I suppose not. Of course. There can be no suggestion of that being the reason I'm leaning towards guilty here, obviously. Obviously, but honestly, I really wish you'd pay more attention to the trial and less to juror number 2.
As a housemaid, I should like to see all filthy eyesores promptly and rigorously eliminated.
Why, you looking down at her all the time? What's going on here? You looking for a younger model? God, Mr. Garrett Ebb.
Hold it!
Polishing the bench, I see. Again.
A maid's work is never done. Not a blemish must remain.
What exactly do you mean by filthy eyesores?
On my way to market for his lordship, I have to pass through the East End. The place is full of beggars, pick-pursers and crossmen. The scum of the earth.
A little harsh, perhaps?
Let me be plain. If it were up to me, all those back slums would be made spick and span or eradicated. At least we have people like the great detective working to achieve these important goals.
You're referring to Mr. Herlock Sholmes?
That's right. I like to keep abreast of his exploits by reading Rand's magazine in between my duties. He does wonders cleaning up London's streets. In my opinion, he should be declared an honorary maid of the capital.
Mr. Sholmes, a maid?
It's really quite unforgivable. Gutter scum having the audacity to shoot our very greatest detective.
Minor detail. It was the 2 brothers in the stand who shot Mr. Sholmes, not the defendant.
A minor detail indeed. They're all gutter scum as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it just might be an idea to get our facts straight anyway.
Yes, it's all right. I shall amend my statement. Those brothers are the scum of the earth. They should swing for shooting the great detective.
Right. Skippy, 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 skippy. In motherland we say never judge by clothes, judge by head. I am convinced brothers are innocent. It looks like these 2 might have an issue, wouldn't you say? We should probably press the rest when you think about it. Yeah. I think those 2 have an issue. We should probably press the rest on the basis of the fact that we worry that maybe that's not correct and we'll be able to find a little bit more out. Let's do that. I think you'll find that if you look at that photograph in stereo, the truth will just pop out.
Hold it!
What do you mean, look at the photograph in stereo? Sorry, what? Don't you know? If you look at the photographic print normally, it looks as though the pickpocket girl is about to shoot the victim, obviously.
Objection!
But there's no indication that the defendant ever fired the gun. All I'm saying is that if you look at the same print in stereo, it could reveal all sorts of new information. By any chance, are you a fan of stereoscopes? Oh, how did you know? Let's call it a lucky guess. It never gets old seeing the 2 prints merge into one before your eyes. It's extraordinary. It's captivating. It's the height of modernity. Modernity, sure. Of course. Oh yes, I think you'll find that the stereoscope is here to stay. Giving us new perspectives we could only dream of before. It's the greatest invention the world has ever seen. If only it could give me a new perspective on this case, I might agree with you. If I have left it in there, I should think there'll be repercussions by now.
Hold it!
What exactly have you been muttering about all this time, sir? You keep talking about having left something somewhere or something like that. So sorry. As you can probably tell, I'm a surgeon. A surgeon? That totally passed me by. Of course, people who conducting surgery in this country aren't considered to be doctors. Oh no. Even though me and my kind are at the forefront of medical science, the real brains in the field. So what is it that you think you've left behind? Well, that's a little embarrassing to be honest. You see, I was operating on someone yesterday. Stamped vein went in through the abdomen. But when I'd finished the procedure, I couldn't find my scalpel anywhere.
Oh no. What? Did he? Surely not.
Exactly. Surely not, you say to yourself, don't you? Worrying, isn't it? That's what's been troubling me this whole time. Could I really have left my scalpel inside the fellow's belly? No, of course I couldn't. So, there you have it. Like I said, a little embarrassing, really.
That's one way of putting it. The other is manslaughter.
That's exactly my concern. Seeing as this case appears to be all but sewn up, I need to focus on trying to remember exactly what I've sewn up elsewhere. Now, I'm sure I made sure everything was back as it should be. Well, as sure as you can be about being sure.
I'm sure you need to be more sure. I made up. Stop. Global radio transmission verdict to follow. Stop. And I think that is where the episode will conclude. Stop. For this time, as now we have to face off a guilty verdict yet again. With obviously one pitting kind of situation looking to be there. We wonder what other ones we might possibly have at this point in time. So let us continue on with the great Ace Attorney. Next time, our unspeakable story continues. See you guys then for more. Bye-bye.